welcome everyone to our July Tuesday night meeting. And the way we're going to do this tonight, Fauzia is going to speak. The last 15 minutes or so, she'll take questions. If you have a question, please put it in the chat and I'll be reading them out so she can answer them. Also, unless you are the speaker, mute yourself, please. All right, so tonight's speaker is Fauzia Burke, author of Online Marketing for Busy Authors. She is the founder and president of SFB Associates, an online book publicity firm. Co-founder of PubSite, a platform for building author websites, a consultant and a coach for authors who need help navigating the book marketing and publicity landscape. Before starting FSB, she worked for several book publishers, Henry Holt, John Wiley. Fauzia has promoted books by authors such as Alan Alda, Arianna Huffington, Deepak Chopra, Melissa Francis, S.C. Gwynn, Mika Brzezinski,
yes,
Charles Spencer, and many more. And she is based in San Diego, California. So please, let's all pay attention to Fauzia.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me. As I said before, I would love to visit your state. So one day, maybe when you're all open up again, I'll actually come by and visit you guys because it's a beautiful state. And I've only driven by once and had a fabulous meal. So I've been itching to come back. And if you guys want to open your video, I'd love to see you because I'm going to talk. I'd really like to, rather than giving you a slide presentation, I'd rather talk to you, and I will have a handout. I love that. I will have a handout, which I'll put in the chat so you can download it and review it. So obviously you heard my bio, but I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself. So I basically started my career in book publishing in New York City. I worked at John Wiley, and then I worked at Henry Holt. And then I saw the internet for the first time, which was about 20 something years ago. I was 10, don't worry. And I decided that this was going to change publishing as we knew it. So I was very excited, and I thought this was going to be a really, the internet was really going to change marketing. I was in marketing and publicity. Of course, as you all know, I am sure, publishing is a slow-moving enterprise. So me, with my grand ideas in '95, thinking the world is about to change with this internet, was not something everybody else was thinking at the time. So I decided to resign and start my own company called FSB Associates, which just celebrated 26 years. Again, I was 10, so thank you. And so I think I was right. The internet did change everything, especially for marketing. And over the years, I've spent all of my time in really promoting books and authors online. That's been my, my focus. We have a small little company, so my company was in New Jersey for about 20 years, and then we moved out to San Diego. And then when we came here, my staff sort of said, wait, can we work from anywhere too? And so we became a virtual company 4 years ago, which came in very handy last year. So we didn't have to figure out how to get everybody working. Everybody was already doing their thing. So I have a staff all over the country, which is wonderful. And we do book publicity. We launched a platform called PubSite for building author websites. It's a do-it-yourself platform, but we can help you build the site too, which is something that we're very proud of. And then I do consulting with authors, as you heard. So that's sort of a little bit about me. I'm going to just put my website in the chat. So if you do ever want to see or follow me or join my mailing list, you can do all that there. So today we're talking about author platform. And it's a term that some people understand completely, some people don't understand, some people have a mixed view of it. So I'm going to go over what that means, how I break it down for my clients. And then I'm going to talk about the common mistakes that authors make, which actually will be a handout, which I will put in the chat when I get to that. So hopefully it's really helpful. And then I really want to spend a lot of time answering your questions, because that's the whole point of you being here and me being here. Otherwise, we could all watch a video, right? We could all watch a recording. So I really want this interaction. The only reason I'm not taking questions throughout is that I go in tangents and I'll tell stories and then we'll be nowhere. So let's go through what author platform means. So a lot of times, if you've heard the term author platform, it's from either publishers or agents. And the reason they ask you this is because they're basically what I consider venture capitalists, right? They're betting on you. And they want to know, do you have a way of bringing an audience for this book? That's what it means. That's simple as that. So an author platform is really, is there a way that you can sell books? You know, do you have a way to sell books? I had one client of mine who said, wait a second, isn't that the publisher's job? I thought, yes, but those days are gone. So now it's really the author's responsibility to bring in their audience, right? So what does that mean? Overall, it means your digital house. Do you have a website? Do you have a mailing list? Do you have social media? How are you engaging with people? Nowadays, people have podcasts. All of those things put together is the impact you will have on readers. Like, are there people anticipating your book? There was one author I worked with, and he was really excited about this one particular idea. It was a business idea. And publishers were really not biting on it, but he was like, this is a great idea. We should be talking about this idea. So what we did was actually, we tried out his idea. We said, okay, let's set up a website, let's set up a blog, let's set up a mailing list. Let's talk about your idea with people and see if they respond. And you know what? People weren't responding to that particular idea. And it saved him like what, years and years of research and writing a book and finding an agent and finding a publisher because it wasn't the right idea. But if you have the right idea, you have people who are following you, who are reading your blogs, who are following you on social media, then you have an idea, then you have something legitimate, a brand, a platform. You can tell authors and to a publisher and say, this is what I have built, right? And it takes time to build, for sure. So understanding why you need it, right? The publishers need it because they're banking on you and they want to make sure you have readers that support your work and care about your work. And then you obviously agents for the same reason. But sometimes a lot of authors will say that I'm self-publishing my book. I don't need to do any of that, right? Like, that's something that publishers need. I don't need it. The thing is, you need it then also because you still have to sell your book. So it's the same concept. The publishing model doesn't really impact on the fact that you need to do this. You have to have a platform, a readership, a following. So that's what an author platform means. So now that we know sort of what it is, here's a few ways that I break it down for my clients, because a lot of times, obviously, you guys want to write, right? That's your main job, main passion is to write. You don't want to be doing marketing also. Most authors don't. So it can feel very overwhelming. And I think one of the ways that I work with my authors, I try to break it down. So I have a little formula that I use called, actually, I should put it in the chat, or I can just tell you. It's design plus engagement plus visibility. So design basically means how you look online. What's your photo look like? What does your website look like? What does your social media look like? It really is sort of like a brand logo would be, right? But in our case, because we're human beings and not companies, we don't have logos. We have our photos. We have the professionalism of our website. We have how our social media looks, basically, that it looks professional, our Amazon pages. All of those things are step one. So you want to make sure that before you do anything else, a lot of times authors come to me and want to do publicity campaign, which is thousands of dollars, and they don't even have a website. And I have to literally tell them, you're wasting your money, because the idea is to bring people back to your website and build your mailing list. Your mailing list is your central, literally, I've been doing this my entire career. I can tell you that your mailing list is your single most important asset. So few things. First of all, make sure you have one. Second, sometimes publishers have one for their authors and the authors don't even have access to that. So change that if you have that situation. So that's step one, like the design piece, right? So if you look through, and you can even do a little audit for each other, pair up and say, okay, go check out my website, go check out my social media. Is the photo the same? Does it all look professional? One thing that authors do, which is a small mistake, but it kind of carries through, is they'll have different pictures on all of their social networks, or sometimes you can't really see their faces. That's really not a great idea. You want to make sure that when people come to any piece of your digital asset, they can connect to you and know that that's where they are. So that's really important. The second piece is engagement, and engagement is for the rest of our lives. This is not something we're going to do and then, give up or do when we have to sell a book. And that's actually one of the mistakes that authors make, is that they show up on social media when they have a new book coming out, and then they disappear when the book goes away, and that doesn't really work. So it's really important to create an engagement with your readers, right? How do you do that? You obviously can do it through social media. You can do it through blogging. You can do it through newsletters. You can do it through a podcast. All of those things are you creating a media opportunity for your readers, getting to know you better, getting to know your books better. Of course, we can't be a sales channel, right? None of these are sales channels, they're engagement channels. It's a way to get to know people and hopefully they'll get to know you. So that's the whole idea behind engagement. And engagement can take, 2 years, I kid you not, before you can actually say, oh, this is why I've been doing it, which is discouraging because a lot of authors think that. I had one client of mine, an author, he wasn't a client, but an author, and he showed up on Facebook and just said, my publisher said I needed to be here to sell books, so here I am. I thought, that what's in it for me for that relationship, right? So that's not the attitude you can have on Facebook. Or another one of an author who told me, I've been tweeting for 3 days and I haven't seen a change in my Amazon ranking. That was another famous one, popular one for me. So it doesn't work that often, right? It doesn't work automatically. It's not a few days. It really does take a long time to have that engagement building up. So that's the engagement part. And then the third piece of that puzzle is visibility. And visibility is whether you're doing a radio show. I think I heard Rose maybe mention that she's going to be on a radio show. Or you're going to be doing advertising on Amazon or BookBub, or any way that you're going to be reaching out outside of your core group, outside of your readers, outside of your own engaged audience. That's called visibility. And there's two different elements in visibility that you should keep in mind. So one is advertising and the other one is publicity. And a lot of authors, I think, don't understand the difference between the two. So I want to go over that because I think it's really important. So advertising is obviously when you pay money to do something, whether it is a sponsorship or it's an ad or it's a banner ad, or you're doing some keyword ads on Google or on Amazon or whatever, ads, where you are paying money for that exposure, right? And the benefit of that is that you can control the message. So you can actually say, this is the greatest book that was ever written in the history of the world. Totally fine, you can do that because it's an ad. But it doesn't have the credibility because obviously you probably haven't written the best book ever written in the history of time. So there isn't you can do it because it's basically your money, you can spend it, but you don't get that sort of authority on it. And then there's publicity, and publicity is earned, right? You can't pay for it. You can pay a publicist to get it for you just because they have the contacts, but you can't actually get a review in the New York Times book review section, right? There isn't any amount of money that you can spend for that guaranteed spot. So publicity is sort of an investment. It's a little bit of a shot in the dark, as it were, which is why sometimes authors get frustrated with publicity because they think, oh, wait, I spent all this money, but I didn't see the return, because it's an investment. You don't know whether the book is going to resonate with people. People are going to actually want to buy it. Did you do a good job on that radio interview? All of those kinds of things have a place to play in that arena. You can't really control the messaging quite as well. And you can't control the timing. Advertising, you can control the timing, right? So those are the different elements of a brand. There's the design piece in the big things, and visibility will be more successful if you've done the other two. So before you spend money make sure that you've got your website, your social media, and your newsletter all designed and ready to go, that you have a way to engage with people and you're responding and commenting. And you know, there's a lot of people who hire people for social media. Although I'm a digital agency, I don't really believe in that, and I don't think it's a good idea. The reason is that you can hire someone to talk for you, but you can't hire someone to listen for you. And social media, half the time, is listening. The important part is actually listening, because that's how you learn. That's how you decide who you're going to engage with. So, and you can't farm this out for the rest of your life. So just kind of keep that in mind, that it's not always a great idea. It is something you have to learn. The thing with social media is you don't have to do all things. You can just pick 2 platforms, any one that you like. If you like being on those platforms, that's the right platform to be on. So, so going back to building a platform, it's design plus engagement plus visibility equals success. That's my little formula. And when I work with clients, I literally say, okay, we're not there yet, right? Because I have clients who have ideas, all sorts of ideas, right? All in equally important. And they feel overwhelming because they are coming at you at the same rate. But they're not equally important, because if you focus on visibility without having set up your design or your house, digital house, it's not going to be as effective. And if you're trying to do engagement, but you haven't really built a good website where people can trust that information is good, or the website is mobile friendly, which is really important. All of those things are really important to do before you can even start advertising or doing publicity. So that is all of branding. I think I got that all. I'm actually putting a handout in the chat. I want to go over that. As basically what I want to talk about is just common mistakes that authors make within this arena. So these are things that I wanted to tell you about, and then I'll answer all of your questions, because I think that'll be a lot more obviously important to all of you guys. Okay, so one of the things that is really important when you're thinking about setting up your branding is knowing your readers. That's so important. On my website, I have free worksheets that you can go and get, and there's one of them about knowing your readers. The reason knowing your readers is important is because you don't want to waste your effort, marketing effort, and you will waste your marketing effort if you don't know who your readers are. You know, where are they, how to reach them. And if you know your readers, one of the things that you can do is actually see if they match the social media that you are engaged in. So for example, if you've written a narrative nonfiction about World War II, and you think your audience is maybe between 40 and 70 or 40 and up, being on Snapchat doesn't help you, right? Snapchat has a teenage audience. So just knowing which platforms have your audience will be really helpful. If you have a predominantly male audience and you've written a business book, that's a completely different platform than Facebook. So knowing your audience and then mapping that with the social media platforms that you're on will be really so much more effective. Less effort, more results. So that's that. The second thing is starting late to do marketing, or even building your brand. So I've also talked to authors who will say to me, oh, I haven't worked, I'm still finishing up my book, and I don't need to start on my marketing just yet, right? That's really not a great idea. I would suggest that you start working on your branding and your marketing as you are writing the book. Like, bring the authors along. So if you've done research, bring them along on that ride. If you've hit a hiccup, or you're having trouble finding a agent, bring your audience, build your audience while you are writing your book. That's going to be so much more effective for you when the book comes out, as opposed to having the book out and then starting to build it, which, as I said, can take a year to 2 years. So that's not when you want to be starting your marketing, right? So that's something that a lot of authors get wrong. They start to think they don't need to do marketing until the book comes out, not right. You need to be planning way in advance, 6 months, a year in advance. So if you're self-publishing, make sure that the date is not just, yep, the book is available, so I threw it up on Amazon. Make sure that you have actually, you know how when we move houses, we always have those do this a year ahead, 6 months ahead, 3 months ahead, all that kind of stuff. Book launch should exactly be like that. So plan that out in advance. And then going at it alone, there are definitely ways to get the support you need. There's no need for every author to try to do everything yourself. We do a digital marketing and publicity company, and I can't do everything myself, right? I mean, everybody needs support. So just kind of keep that in mind. There are lots of ways to get support, and it's important to do that for yourself. Okay, this is just a pet peeve. It's not even a mistake authors make. It's just my own personal pet peeve. I've like slide it in everywhere I can. So there's this idea that authors sometimes will do things by committee. And with that, I mean, your family, your friends, your kids, all that, right? And you're basing your professional book decisions on people who are not in book publishing. So that is not a great idea, because sometimes there'll be a cover, right? A jacket that your daughter loves, and that's great. And she can hang it on her wall, that's great, but it's not a marketing tool, right? Because you can't read the title. So sometimes the people you surround yourself, the committee, right, are not book professionals. And so you need at least one voice of someone, anyone, a friend, a published author, an agent, someone who can guide you to making the book publishing decisions. And sometimes the book publishing decisions are that title won't work because it doesn't have the right keywords, or the title is too long, or the cover doesn't make any sense, or the cover is unreadable, or the cover is unreadable in the small size. There's a lot of things that book publishing people just happen to know that other people wouldn't know. So definitely you can have friends and family who are supportive and encouraging and all of those kinds of things, but just make sure that you are not doing design by committee or title by committee or anything like that. You need some sort of like book publishing expert. Okay, so this is going to sound a little crazy, but sometimes I actually have to tell authors to do less. Because what happens is a lot of times authors can get really burnt out. They're trying to do all things all the time. I have one client of mine, when she came to me, she was on every platform, social platform you can think of. So Goodreads, YouTube, Facebook, obviously, Instagram, Twitter. Of course, she couldn't be on all of them, but she had a profile. So she had this long string of links on her website, and she couldn't be on all of those platforms, right? So she was burned out. She didn't know how to keep it going. Or sometimes authors think they have to send a newsletter out every week. Oh my God, that would drive me crazy. I send one every 3 months and feel like I've really accomplished something. So don't try to take on too much. I know for coming from a digital marketer, that sounds like counterintuitive, but I've seen authors along the way just really burn out. So pick your priorities, and your priorities need to be a website, 100%, no matter what anybody tells you, you need a website and you need a new modern mobile-friendly website. The second thing is you need a mailing list. You absolutely positively need a mailing list. It can start with your family and friends and grow from there, but you need one. Now, why would people join your mailing list if you have nothing new to give them? So for that reason, a blog or a podcast is a great idea, but again, you know, it's up to you, but that you need some kind of content to put in your newsletter. And then just pick 2 social networks. That's it, just 2. You can be on others if you want because you like them, but engage regularly and consistently. The more important thing is consistency than showing up in a lot of different places once in a while. So just kind of keep that in mind. So those are the mistakes that I think, most common mistakes that I have seen authors make. Are we doing on time? Okay, good. Okay, so a few just sort of pieces of advice, right? One I've said already, build a website, absolutely. You know, when we started doing websites, I'm pretty sure that my company launched the first author website ever. It was in '97. Again, I was 12 by then, right? So we all understand I was very, very, very young. So we did a website for Sue Grafton, which was amazing. And so we've been doing websites for a long time. And over time, obviously, WordPress became like the go-to place for doing websites. Now there's Squarespace and Wix and Weebly, and of course, I like ours, PubSite, for where you can build your own website or you can get it done much more effectively and cheaply, and they're all mobile friendly, which is really helpful. So no excuse for needing a website, or if you don't have a mobile friendly website, remember that mobile traffic is 50% of traffic to websites these days. So if you don't have a mobile website, it's not just that, oh, people would not be able to get the information in the right way, right layout. It's that Google will not send you traffic if your site is not mobile friendly. So you're losing all of that traffic if you don't have one. So that's a really important one. I've said this, so I'm going to say it again. There is no reason to not start as early as possible. So make sure that you are starting on your marketing branding journey, your platform building journey as quickly as possible, like today, if you haven't done it. And even if you have done it, start working on it more. Okay, mailing list. Why? There was this huge thing in the middle of, I think about 2-3 years ago, where everybody was like, oh, email is dead. Nobody's using email. Is that true? No, it was never true. Email is absolutely not dead. And email is the most, when someone gives you their mailing address, their email address, they are giving you the most trust that we can afford online, right? Besides buying the book. So you've got to make sure that that trust is validated by giving them good content and making sure that you are communicating with them on a regular basis. So showing up in somebody's inbox, it literally is a privilege. So make sure that you're taking good care of that privilege and make sure that you're giving them good information. You're not spamming them. You're not just showing up when you have a book, you have something to share with them. All of those kinds of things are really important. And there's also great tools. I'm a complete nerd when it comes to tools. So if you have questions later on like what to use, I'm your gal, because I love experimenting with tools and I have good ones for everything. But we use MailChimp. You can use MailerLite or Constant Contact. There's a billion of them, right? Lots of them. So use whichever one you like, but make sure that you have one where people can sign up for it on your website. And then I talked about being prudent on social media, right? Pick two, but be consistent. The consistency is more important than just being on a lot of different things. So, and then this is really important, be patient. All this takes time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something that you're going to be able to, wrap up in a few days, or you're going to show up and 3 months later, you've become a bestseller because you joined Twitter 2 years ago, 2 months ago, or something like that. So give yourself a lot of time and space and patience to do this work, because it takes time. It definitely takes time. And it takes a little bit of expertise because it changes, right? Things grow and new tools come on board, and then you have to kind of adjust. I generally do an assessment every 3 months. So every 3 months, I go through what's working on social media. I look at Google Analytics, right, which is a tool that you can have on your website that shows you the traffic that you're getting on your website, who's coming to your website, what they're actually doing, where they're coming from. All of these decisions are really important because then you can sort of tweak things as you go. I remember one time I had an author who came to me and she was writing these blogs every week and she just felt like nobody was reading them and she was getting frustrated, and she was definitely, one of the burnout feeling. So I said, all right, so which one of these blogs is working for you? And literally there was just a complete silence on the other side of the phone. And she said, wait, I can know that? And yes, you can know that. It's amazing. So if you have a program like Google Analytics, or if you use, Weebly or Wix or Squarespace, they have another tool built in. They will show you where people are coming from. right? So let's say social media, you're spending all your time on Facebook, but nobody's coming to your website. Or this happens more often, Instagram is very popular for being on Instagram, but it actually doesn't drive any traffic to your website. So you have to kind of think about what's the purpose of being on Instagram? You know, what is the goal for your engagement on every platform? And Google Analytics will tell you. So look over your Google Analytics, look over your analytics for your mailing list, see if it's growing, what links people click on. There's another new concept in marketing that I just want to tell you guys, which is called sort of not having leaks in your website and in your mailing list. So for the longest time, this idea was that, you know, you curate the information, and I totally agree with that. And you give people links to other things, right? Read this book or read this essay or something. What marketers feel now is that you've done all this work to get these people's attention. You don't want to send them off in other places. So don't have leaks in your newsletter and don't have leaks on your website, meaning don't send people off. If they need to find something, they can Google it. Because the thing is, if you send people off, right, your blog is full of links, they're going to go off to some link and they're not coming back. So that's something that's really relatively new. So kind of keep that in mind. But remember that you are the curators of your own information. So if your website, if your homepage is really overwhelming, like count the number of things that are on your homepage. And if it's an overwhelming number, which is more than anything, more than 4 or 5 things to do, then it's overwhelming. And you need to clean that up and make sure that you're giving people who are going to spend maybe 20 seconds on your website before they leave, what do you want them to do, right? Because this idea that you just have them come to your website and spend an hour is not happening. Most people spend, the longest people spend on a website, well, 2 minutes is great. Sometimes, occasionally, you can get people who are spending 4 minutes on your website, but a lot of people are spending between 20 to 40 seconds on your website. So it's your responsibility to make sure that the website communicates what you need them to communicate in that 40 seconds, right? So I think that probably wraps up my presentation, and I can't wait to answer your questions, because that's really the best part of being in a community like this, right? Otherwise, I could just send you a recording. So I hope that this was helpful. I had presentations. I just feel like on Zoom, I didn't want to have a screen, and then you guys would just be looking at a screen instead of seeing my very animated hand gestures. So hopefully that worked for you, and I hope that that was good information. And all of this information is on my website, like in blogs and, you know, all sorts of places, videos. So I hope that was helpful, and I'm happy to take your questions.